We're all doing our best to survive in this world. That's how it is. It's difficult sometimes. So we have to use a lot of methods. And sometimes we might even make use of the paradox of the ego death. We usually experience it when we go through a shocking experience. It doesn't matter where it came from. Perhaps somebody offended you, or maybe we failed to do something. It doesn't matter. Maybe you weren't able to achieve your dream, or perhaps you didn't manage to end up with the partner that you craved to be with. It's all the same. Life is a fierce competition, an endless struggle. If you follow what you have been told to and give in to all your conditioning. So when you perform this sort of ego death, you're kind of detaching yourself from all these worldly aspirations. And it's interesting to notice that in order to do that, you have to rely on your identity, which is the foundation of your ego. So, in my eyes, ego and identity, who you are as a person, are all built on words and preconceived notions. So when you try to do that, you kind of trying to, a certain sense, shoot yourself in the foot, because you need to use your ego as a facilitator to do that. And you have to be very genuine when you do that. And it's very similar to the way in which the Baron Münchhausen has lifted himself from a marsh. I don't know if you've read the book, The Adventures of the Baron Münchhausen. I'm not sure if they translated it this way in English, but that's how I read it, and this is an approximate translation. So yeah, you kind of need to take yourself, figuratively speaking, from the hair and pull yourself out of trouble. And you kind of are trying to do that without having a point of interest, of relying, a stable point from which you can lift something, when you have to build something, you kind of use another point as a foundation. And in this case, you are using yourself in order to overcome yourself. And you have to be very open and aware of the contradiction that lies in it. And think of it also in the way in which the snake swallows its own tail. That's a symbol of the perpetual cycle of life, but that also means that you can overcome your ego in this way. But at the end of the day, if you're practicing this and if you are meditating, you realize that this is also a way to fool yourself, and it's just another step of your ego evolvement. And I'm not saying this to discredit the practice of meditation and all the Buddhist philosophy, because you have to be very sincere about it in order for it to work. And I'm not trying to denounce it as a scam or as a product of a con man, because if you are trying to fool yourself, it's not in a bad way, and it's not a self-delusion in a untruthful way, because that's what we do during our whole life. And especially when things don't go your way, you have to convince yourself that everything will be alright, that things will settle down, and the universe will help you, or maybe God, if you are a believer. It doesn't matter, but there is always a certain dimension of self-hypnosis, because that's what we do. If, for example, you are a man and you fall in love with a woman who doesn't love you, or maybe she is interested in someone else, and she rejects you, you try to invent excuses in order to downgrade her, and along the lines of she doesn't have tits, she's not beautiful, or she has a bad temper. And I'm not saying that in order to sound purely sarcastic, although it's ironical and it's a joke to some extent, but all jokes have a grain of truth to them. And I'm pretty certain that women do the same mind trick, and that's essential in order to survive. And we can say the same things regarding such concepts as misogyny, because we are assigning very fast labels such as this, but on the other hand, women have the same tendency, it's something natural. You know how they say that men are the same. Men can say the same thing, women are the same. And I know that sounds generalistic, and I'm not a promoter of that, because I think that every individual is unique, and there are no simple people, regardless of their gender. But at the end of the day, you also need to convince yourself in order to feel better sometimes. And you have to make use of such obsessions, ideas, generalizations. It doesn't matter. And there is a lot to talk about this. I'm sure you've noticed this tendency in your mind during your whole life, if you at least have reached the teenage years, because that's when we kind of are thrown into this difficult, complicated, and yet beautiful world. And that's when our idea of self kind of blossoms, and we are very driven and are looking for our identity and what we want to do in life. So there is a a range of individuals who can understand this, and it's a very tricky dance, a very tricky cerebral dance, and also intuitional, to kind of convince yourself that the things that you are striving for are not worthy, although you want them, but at the same time to understand that you are just consoling yourself, and all that meanwhile you kind of are genuine in both attitudes. You are very sincere when you think in this totally opposite ways. And I know that sounds a little bit contradictory and psychotic, but to me it's natural. Perhaps I'm more contradictory than most people because I am a Gemini, I don't know, and also an introvert, yet it appears to me that that's how the whole universe is operating, based on the interrelations between opposites, between cold and warm, and male and female, bad and evil, angels and demons. It doesn't matter, Even the ancient Greeks had this sort of philosophy, whose name I forgot, but that stated that the world is built kind of on the opposites, and it kind of seemed primitive, but there is some truth to that, some intuitive understanding, and because they didn't have the tools that we have at our disposal currently in order to study the world, so they had to rely purely on observation. And of course we've repudiated most of the things that were said then, but at the same time we are constantly relearning the old things, but on a different level, because that's how our mind operates. And you know how they say that the progress doesn't move in circles but in spirals, meaning that we might reinvent and make alive again an old theme, but on a different level, and having at our disposal different instruments. But at the end of the day, we kind of know everything in a purely metaphysical level and intellectual. And I want to say by this is that our mind, as incredible as it is, has its own thinking bound by logic. So we are kind of doomed to repeat the same circles of knowledge, even though we think that we are learning something new, and we do, but we are just prolonging the path to self-discovery. We are knowing ourselves, you know, and I don't know about you, but it struck me when I was like in high school. Why is it that some math formulas, such as those used in physics, and I'm talking now about the classic or Newtonian physics, are so incredibly well suited to describe the world around us and how an object falls and all of that? It's because we are only able to perceive a segment of the reality for which we could provide the explanations according to our paths, according to our cognitive paths. And the same way, you know, it's like the sun is in the center of our galaxy, you know, and everything moves kind of this centric structure, and the atoms also move in this way, although according to, you know, quantum physics, the atoms don't exist. But that's another topic of discussion. So yeah, our ego is a very broad notion, and it's very fascinating to know and to be aware of our predetermined paths, and give some thought to how much free will we have at our disposal. So yeah, I wish you a good day, and see you on the next one.